And that breaking news, a possible Christmas Day tornado touching down in Boyle Heights. This is new video coming into our newsroom of winds whipping through a gas station, a strip mall, and even someone's home. All of this happening yesterday morning. Let's get us now to some live pictures at Marisco's seafood restaurant that also sustained some damage there. Mayor Bass has arrived there at this moment. You can see her there live looking at all of the damage there. We anticipate a news conference at some point, and we'll bring it to you live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Lolita Lopez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Makala Medina. Let's get straight to this. Experts with the National Weather Service are on scene right now. You just saw that, and so are we. We have live team coverage with an up-close look at all of the damage that was left behind by this potential tornado. We began with NBC4's Keenan Willard, who is at a home that has some damage. He's been talking to people who live there. Keenan.
Yeah, we have here on Lee Street what looks like the hardest hit area from this possible tornado. You can see behind me there the roof of Francisco Gonzalez's home, probably the hardest hit area we've seen here on this street. But we're also talking to neighbors who have suffered significant damages themselves. This is Bobby Torres. He lives next door. Bobby, can you kind of walk me through what you experienced and take me back there to where the damage is?
Yeah, just experiencing all this when it was just raining hard and like really pounding. It was just like a total different perspective on what you see when it's a hard storm. We got I noticed we got hit in the back because I heard a big slam, and I was wondering, was that us? Because all of a sudden it felt like the house just shook for a moment. But I noticed it actually yanked this off, and I had to push it back on our water heater door and crumbled stuff. And I was watching on our ring cam originally when this all happened. I saw this I could see debris kind of flying out there. It looked like leaves or whatever was floating around just in the sky. I was like, dude, this is pouring down hardcore, because it was just so consistent. It was pounding, just constant pounding. And just looking around, and I could see our neighbors, because even my uncle was telling me, hey, look at the neighbor's house.
Yeah, look at the back.
It looked
right
like it got ripped. And I was like, oh my gosh. I looked down and I noticed that you can see it's really yanked, pulled up. It literally got peeled back. And I wasn't like that yesterday, you know what I mean, before this all happened, went down. And I was trying to check our roof, and it appears that it's okay. But I just noticed looking around for how to weight things down, because the winds were just overwhelming, just throwing everything around in those storms and everything.
And we talked to you, the idea of suffering through a tornado potentially in Southern California, how does that sit with you?
That kind of just doesn't sit on the right spot like that. Just thinking about that, because I didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be rains and just really winds and gusts. And even for our dog, I was kind of nervous just to keep an eye on him, because I was like, dude, I just hear him always barking, but it was just pounding. And after hearing the slam and all that, that was just a wake-up call. I was like, I got to get out there and go check and make sure there's nothing broken or anything like that. And I want to make sure our house or anybody else looking over, my uncle told me about the neighbor's house that is broken and pulled off or yanked, you know what I mean? Just seeing stuff like that, it's just not something you see normally happen in LA, at least with the rains.
Glad the impacts weren't worse for you and your family here and some of your neighbors. So thank you for sharing your story with us. We're going to be out here for the next few hours talking to neighbors like Bobby here on Lee Street about this potential tornado, and also investigators looking into just how strong this thing potentially was. More information coming from Lee Street here in Boyle Heights. Keenan Willard, NBC4 News.
Keenan, thanks so much. A dramatic 24 hours. Let's get to Luis Treto from our sister station, Telemundo 52. He's also in Boyle Heights right now with some incredible video of that potential tornado touching down.
That's right, Makala. We're at the corner of Lorena Street and Whittier Boulevard here in Boyle Heights. And I want to show you some of the damage that sustained this pharmacy. That's the sign that was ripped off by the winds. We also spoke to the owner of this gas station here, an Arco gas station, and he told us that basically they got caught by surprise. Let's take a look at the surveillance video that he provided us. The images are from Thursday around 9:50 a.m. In the morning, you can see that it was raining, and all of a sudden, you can see the strong wind. At some time, 3 passengers got out of a metro bus. Seconds after, you can see objects flying around, including the signs of a nearby pharmacy. Here at the gas station, some passengers were pumping gas, and they had to take shelter behind the pillars of the structure in order to protect themselves from the wind and the debris flying around. This is what the gas station owner had to tell us.
Some people run into shelter inside the gas station, but like I said, nobody can.
This is very unusual.
Very, very unusual. It's the first time I witnessed something like that in over 35 years ago.
Luckily, here at the gas station, the owner tells us that nobody was injured, but they were afraid of this unusual possible tornado. And also, some of the neighbors in the area were telling me earlier today that they got caught by surprise. They didn't know if it was just the rain or it was an earthquake. Obviously, something very shocking for people who live in Southern California. Live in Boyle Heights, Luis Treto, NBC4 News.
Shocking and understatement. Thanks, Luis. Just across the way from that shopping center, there was a different angle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. NBC4 photojournalist J.R. Hall is live there showing us some of the stuff that he's seeing there. And J.R., this is Mariscos Tampico restaurant. We were there earlier in the 3 o'clock hour. What are you seeing right now?
Yes, this is a family-owned business here at the Mariscos Tampico. You can see the sign over here that's set in front of the store that the wind came around and hit that and destroyed the sign, and it fell over. Another sign across the street over there on the corner of Whittier and Lorena also was messed up by the wind, and the wind came around here right in front of this Mariscos here, and it broke. First of all, the wind hit the sign up here on the front of the smoke shop. It came off and then it landed on the ground here. And if you go to the video, you can see the surveillance video. There's a swirling vortex right in the corner of this little mini mall that will show you how everything is flying around on the ground. And the part of that sign hit this window here and busted it. Now going inside, you can see that from the inside, the glass is still cleaned up and everything, but they boarded up the glass and they've fixed it so that the rain doesn't come in and everything. It was a really windy wind that came over here. If it was a tornado, it was big enough to break this glass out and cause a destruction here at this restaurant.
Yeah, JR, you're showing us all of that damage there. We saw some of the other video from the surveillance cameras that show kind of the doors just swinging open. Were there any cars that were damaged at all that were in the area because of any flying debris there?
I'm not sure, but as I drove up, you could see a lot of broken plastic from the signs on the intersection there of Lorena and Whittier Boulevard there. Also, this store, this restaurant right across next door to the Marisco store, this plate glass window was busted also. They boarded that up to keep it dry from getting inside, but there's still firemen standing here and they're trying to figure out what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a press conference here maybe soon, and the police are still checking out the area to see what's going to happen. Looks like Mayor Bass is just right there. She's starting to walk down to figure out take a look at, inspect the damage here at this restaurant here at the corner of Lorena and Whittier Boulevard.
Yeah, and what we're taking a look at there, and JR, thank you so much for these live pictures at 4:08. That is Mayor Karen Bass from LA City looking at the damage. We also know these are members from the National Weather Service. Dr. Ariel Cohen at 3 o'clock telling us that they were coming to the area to assess the damage. This is a way that they can tell, right, Mac, if it is a tornado or it could have just been, heavy Santa Ana winds, how things had flowed. This is the way that they can do that by looking at the damage itself.
And I know when Keenan was talking to that resident, they were saying, can you believe this tornado in Southern California? Yes, we can believe it. It's happened at least twice in the last recent years, right? We had one over in Montebello, a small one over in Compton, so they do happen. They're very small. They are powerful enough to cause some minimal damage, but it does happen in our area, so it's certainly a cause for concern, and it is a possibility. So they're going to try to determine whether or not this is in fact probably a low, right, which I think is called an F1, which would be the lowest of it. Let's listen in here. Do you think we can listen in a little bit here?
To see each of the pieces of damage along the entire track, so we not only come up with an assessment as to whether it was straight line winds or tornado, but also what the intensity, or rather the rating of the tornadoes on the enhanced Fujita scale. That official designation goes into our official records and has an important impact on society. So it's important that we be able to go through and see what the damage was so that we can do the assessment.
Thank you. Mayor, another question is how is the way the government is going to help these people that was impacted for this strong wind?
Well, that's what we'll have to determine in terms of the damage, whether it's the Small Business Administration or FEMA. All of those things are what we're in the process of determining now. I also understand there's a representative here from the council office that if you would like to do an interview in Spanish, you can do it, correct?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mayor.
You're very welcome.
Right.
All right, so there you go. They're talking about whether or not this was a weak tornado or potentially straight line winds, which could possibly cause that damage that we saw there.
Yeah, and the mayor also talking about once they know what it is, they can then figure out what type of assessment to give in terms of repairs or any other funding that they can help some of these business owners in this aftermath. And so they have to kind of go there and sort of look at it piece by piece. But it really did affect so many places. So far, we've seen a gas station with surveillance video. We've seen this strip mall area. It was signs from above, not just the windows right down below and the doors there going in, those glass doors, but the signs there, the marquees for these different businesses, a gas station itself, and then a homeowner. That's where Keenan is in that Boyle Heights area. And what Dr. Cohn was saying earlier is there is kind of a corridor where these tornadoes do happen. So it might feel like it's unusual to most of us, but like you were saying earlier, they do happen. So it really is about figuring out the rate of speed of the winds, making sure that they know what it is, looking at all of those things, piecing it together to then be able to determine to put that, as he said, in the record books. And